Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Shows progress.
Actually, March is actually this is what it looked like.
People are going to kill you for sharing this.
I
stuff.
know.
I know.
The entire dev team. You're going to see hands
our
come
dev
through the
team-
bush here and just, oh my God.
You just murdered a plant.
What happened?
That was for you, Scott.
Yes, finally. Yes.
Revenge.
Ew.
What were you doing anyway?
I was trying to attack him with a plant, pretending the devs that made it.
And he just broke it. Well, we can get to the foliage part later.
I even have props now.
I know, go on. Get it drunk. Get the plant drunk.
I think you might be drunk.
I'm not. I'm
Some
not.
serious strength.
So this was.
It's fine.
The plant was weak.
It's fine.
Go ahead. Sorry, Steve.
This is. Thank you. Yep. Yep. You good now?
I'm good.
Okay. So this is what the planes look like in March, and we had a meeting. I remember this meeting very well, and we all gathered around to kind of look at the progress, and we thought we need to change the tools and the technology that we currently have to make terrains pretty radically. So yeah, I can just keep walking. I won't spend so long on them. At that point in March, the planes were a whopping what is that? I think that says 500 meters. Can you read that?
Yeah.
805.
800. Okay, so we were probably maybe 2 or 3 square kilometers, and what we're ending up with, I think what we'll probably ship is around 9 square kilometers. As you can see, we were trying to build this out of proc pieces like tiles like we used to do. And so, yep, so here we go. And then
This is the cutest little video.
in March, this was the day-night cycle.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Yeah, you remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird to think of this in March. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the day-night cycle in March.
Oh, where'd he go?
vanished.
Yeah. Well, I ran out of the zone there, so that was just yeah. Right.
Ship it. Looks great.
Ship
Ship.
it.
It looks great. We were actually pretty excited about this in March because up until then we had popping lights, and this is basically 3 light positions that I'm interpolating between. And we also felt that this wasn't going to be good enough, and we had to rethink how we light these large spaces. So the first thing we did in April was we started, the team started working with World Machine. I don't even know if that's a video. Oh, it is. Yeah, look at
It
that.
sure is.
Wow. I didn't even know this was a video. And so this was, if you watch the lighting carefully, you can see that mostly it's color temperatures that are interpolating, and you don't get a lot of significant changes in shadow direction, and when you do, they kind of pop from one to the other. But this was the beginning of the planes in terms of a new way of building terrains, which is using procedural generation. I had a question on Twitter about that this morning, and where it starts its life is in this really cool tool called World Machine. So yeah, that's
Is that how worlds are born?
yes, that's the machine that builds worlds. And this was one kind of giant terrain chunk that we were experimenting with. And then I keep going. This was this. This was saying, okay, what can we do to build large stuff? And so what we had to do is take our terrains and slice them into grids and piece them together. You guys remember me sharing this kind of junk?
Yeah.
All sorts of seams between them and that sort of stuff. And you can see there's a little bit of that interpolation where we interpolate from one position to noon position light.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and I have my little Grenier thing coming out of the fog.
Uh-oh.
That was when I was getting excited about the size of these things and the feel.
I think this is when it kind of started
Yes.
to get an idea of what the scope
It started to click.
meant. Like,
It started to click.
yeah.
Holy crap.
And then you want to just keep going, Dean. So the first challenge was to say, let's have continuous day-night cycles. And that meant that the sun has to be able to, kind of rise and fall. And so this is derived from kind of a forgotten research paper called ambient aperture lighting. And this is the technique that we're using to light the planes. And the huge benefit of that is you get global soft shadows that are based on any light direction. and it runs on a toaster. And so those are my two criteria: is how can I have a big light source? So although it seems like a small thing, in our engine we've always been focused on indoor lighting. We've never had this sense of a global sunlight, and now we do. And that was in April. And then you start working on atmospherics. So I was getting really excited around this time when the fog and the sky and the
Grenier ship.
my little
Yes.
Grenier ship flying around to try to give it a bit of scale. And this is kind of syncing between the day-night cycle with also changes in atmosphere. I just keep
Lovely
just keep
wind.
running there. This one's hilarious because the sun goes up and then goes back down in the same path. Which
Like it just goes up and down,
yeah,
like
it
a
does.
bouncy ball?
Yes. But you can see again, so it's the changes in the sky and changes in the atmosphere gradient there.
And we're going to see the sun go right back in.
And then someone on Twitter asked me, like, is that plausible what's happening? Of course it isn't. The sun does not come up and then set in the opposite direction, It doesn't go back down in reverse. But that was another big milestone for us.
That's when we took our first astrophysics class to learn.
Yes, exactly.
Light and source.
We had to go back to school for that. We've had foliage for a little while in the game, and of course the Earth Remaster was when we added a ton more foliage. And then, so this one was kind of development of that foliage. You see, I can't run around this tree because the collision's too big. But that was the
Good
first.
video.
This one's a very exciting one. So we have, we actually have more graphics programmers than just me working on the project now. And they started working on LED systems. So at distances in open world games, which we've never had to do before, but at distance, they turn things into imposters, which are basically sprites at a distance. So we had to build these LED systems so it'll work on a variety of hardware. And so then we got into May, and this is kind of where we started locking down the plane's terrain. So this is kind of what we have now.
Will look familiar.
What we have now actually kind of looks like this. You can see it's quite green at this point. And starting to layer in the foliage, we don't really have any decorative objects. We don't have any trees or a lot of rocks placed yet. We don't have any LED systems in play yet. Most of the AI doesn't work. But this is us in May saying, oh my God, TennoCon soon, keep going. There's a lot of water featured in the Eidolon Plains and in the town. So this was adding the new layers about the Fresnel, the internal refraction, the scattering inside, so you can see a bit of the mud particles in there. And this is kind of me showing progressively those additions to water shading.
Gotta make fishing the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, well, that's where the fishing joke started.
This.
This was one of the sound guys climbing a tree. You can see it's a bit glitchy here because, of course, the vertex animation of the tree is kind of displacing too far.
A little bit.
But you can see this is very early on as well in May when trees started getting placed. Here's when Scott said, "What do you think about getting this working?" I included this, Scott.
So when we see different warframes, is this different developers showing their fashion
That's
frame?
right. Yes, that's
Oh
right.
yeah, and Scott
Oh,
did
yes.
this. That's right. Yep.
I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Is that up to DE?
To everybody.
Yep. So that was when we decided that we really wanted to make Arcwing a thing in there. And when was that? That would be May.
Late May, early June.
That's late May. Okay.
Yeah.
This is June now.
And then
Oh my gosh.
one of the things we wanted. So this is starting to look a lot closer to that kind of more warm fall look.
Yeah. The idea wasn't really like, it wasn't even necessarily to convey fall. We were just, the green, it was feeling too healthy of an earth for,
For the story.
for the story. And we were thinking, because this was like an ancient fight between sentients and Orokin, and we have the sentient kind of fossils in the ground. We thought maybe the red from the sentients would kind of bleed into the earth and kind of give it that red tint. Was kind of the idea that we kind of wanted to explore with, and I think even Steve just did some quick tint tests.
That's right. Yeah.
It started to feel like something kind of a bit more special.
And this is so tonally this shift really helped, but also it became really exciting to see kind of familiar enemies in an unfamiliar setting like this,
Yeah.
where the Grineer patrols are walking through the grass. This is another one that Sergey did for me, which was our volumetric lighting that we're very proud of in the game. Doesn't work over very large distances very well, so he implemented this different kind of...
When this got working,
yeah.
it just...
Yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
It was just such a huge quality boost.
And even at night, it looked cool. And what I loved about this video was fighting the Grineer at night was really interesting to see their base become fully alert and start bombing you, and see their turrets, aggroing me at night. This is, I got my butt kicked there because I wasn't fighting back. And so that was in June. And so in June, it was kind of feeling really close to Tenocom worthy, and I kind of captured this to check the whole continuous day-night thing, which is a really important part of the effort that the engineers and the artists went through to kind of make this happen, because it's sort of key to our gameplay as well, where the monsters come out at night.
We have a lot of questions about how that's going to work. So is now the time to ask you those, or do you want to get through your videos?
Let me-
first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just get through
Yeah.
this. So you can see the continuous cycle there, and almost a continuous cycle.
Send it.
Starting all the way from morning, and then kind of ending at night, where the eidolons emerge.
Yes.
So this is a 9 square kilometer space with tons of interesting technical challenges, right up to the ship moment. And I think by then we were kind of locked down, and now we're looking at some of the gameplay systems. These are, work in progress systems about how the skiffs are going to work that you guys have seen, being able to knock the Grineer off them. And of course, he didn't live very long, but you can see what we're trying to do is bring in other systems that you know from Warframe. Here's a beautiful example that Dan put together for me.
So sick.
So, our plan is not necessarily that this guy has. We didn't have the Eidolon walk cycle yet. Mm-hmm. So this is, you can see a bit of the latency on the foot IK there, but this is a really important thing when you have great sizing monsters. Placing their feet on the train is actually an interesting challenge that he's demonstrating here. You can actually see the placeholder mesh of the Eidolon rigidly standing in the back. But you can see here the scope of the landscape when you compare it against such a giant monster.
I think that's...
And then I've got a few other things here. I wanted to show some of these because I think they're so cute.
Yes,
Yep,
yes.
Whatever you want.
You're showing these. That's awesome.
I just wanted to show some of this
More
stuff.
than a cupola.
If, one of the things that's going to be interesting in the Plains of Eidolon is you'll be able to do things and collect resources in ways that aren't just combat and smashing. And one of these is the spear fishing that we demonstrated. So there's a hierarchy of fish, and I just love how
Chat explodes with fish.
yeah, how crazy these look. And we didn't want to have just the kind of, thanks, Dean. We didn't want to just kind of have a trout or anything, of course, because Warframe is set in this kind of really, really far future where things are, of course, not what we're familiar with. And then some more, speaking to people who are kind of worried about console or worried about their low-end hardware, absolutely our goal is to have this running on a laptop with Intel integrated graphics. So here's an example of hierarchical LOD, which we've never had in Warframe before, which is going to pay off huge benefits, not only for landscape, but future endeavors. On the left, you can see 111,000 triangles, 22 draw calls because of all the materials being merged down for a distant proxy that's really damn close for literally, what is that? That is
1,600.
1,600 triangles and one draw call. So we're really, really pushing hard for you guys that have played this game for years, that have come up to me at PAX and said, I really appreciate how good the game looks on maybe my laptop that isn't as good, or my older PC. Right. So we're definitely putting a lot of effort into that. If you want to just go through these other ones real quick, looking at generating LODs for the train causes gaps, so we have to do hole filling, kind of like how Horizon Dawn does that, and keep going there. There's you know, taking that really complex terrain that you're seeing, and as it gets further and further away, the triangles are reduced. So there's a lot of LED systems in there. And I think, is that it?
Yeah, there's this one right here. I don't know if you want to show
Tech
it now.
new. Oh, and then I think, just show this briefly. Obviously, what we're doing with Plains of Eidolon is adding a new aspect to Warframe, a really interesting kind of a type of gameplay and exploration, a size of monsters and a size of space that we've never added before. So of course, our hope is this is just the beginning of kind of going to different planets and exploring this further. So we also have a smaller team who are kind of working forward and looking for the next thing. So this won't be a one-off for us, and hopefully you guys love it, and that will give us the justification to keep going.
Yes.